She was only confirmed to the job a month ago. She was not Donald Trump's first choice to be the head of the Centres for Disease Control. A lot of Australians only really think of the CDC in the context of the coronavirus pandemic. That it was certainly one of the most important agencies anywhere in the world at the time. It was founded about 80 years ago in the United States. Its primary role, Ros, is about disease prevention, pandemic prevention, and research and education around prevention of the spread of disease. So it's really important, not just in terms of research, but in terms of telling the public what is going on. The falling out that has happened with Susan Minares is basically because the Health and Human Services Secretary, Robert Kennedy Jr., who has oversight of the Centres for Disease Control, he is making it harder for Americans to get COVID-19 vaccines. We know that Kennedy is a long-term vaccine skeptic. He has peddled false and unscientific conspiracy theories that some vaccines are linked to childhood autism. There is no evidence for that, but Kennedy is convinced of it. He's convinced of a lot of scientifically unsound things. And increasingly, the doctors who work at the Centres for Disease Control are concerned that he's imposing his false beliefs on this incredibly important agency. By Kennedy making it harder for Americans to get the COVID-19 vaccine, basically if you're under the age of 65, you need to go and see a doctor at least once in order to effectively be prescribed to see it. So it's just an additional hurdle to getting the vaccine. And the concern is that fewer Americans are going to get the vaccine, and the fewer get the vaccine, the more who will die of COVID-19. So that's why the director has resigned. She was asked to resign after a meeting with Kennedy last Monday. She refused to resign. Kennedy's Health and Human Services Department then announced that she had been sacked. Her lawyers said, "You can't sack me, only the president can sack me." The White House has now said, "Okay, you're sacked," but the president himself has not said, "Okay, you're sacked." So there is a kind of a legal HR thing here. But the more serious point is the Centres for Disease Control hasn't just lost Minares, they have lost their top 5 medical experts. They have lost well over 1,000 staff. They have lost their expert advisory panels, the other doctors, virologists who have been advising them on things like COVID and monkeypox and other things in recent years. On top of all of that, a couple of weeks ago, a crazed person, an anti-vaxxer, who had convinced themselves that the COVID-19 vaccine had made them mentally ill, he went to the CDC headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia, and opened fire. He let off 200 rounds from his gun. He killed a police officer. So the CDC is very anxious about this. To an extent, they blame Robert Kennedy Jr. for sowing vaccine scepticism, for the fact that somebody came after them with a gun. And on top of that, they also believe millions of Americans are now at much greater risk of dying of diseases, including COVID-19, because the regulations around who can get the vaccine and how, as well as the misinformation. The good information has been removed from the CDC website, and some misinformation, including autism-related stuff, has been put in its place. So we're seeing a real revolt now. This is not just about one person, but it is also an interesting fight because she's digging in for now. She's lawyered up, and we'll see how this all pans out. But we have seen increasingly in the last 7 months, Ros, so many expert agencies within the government being politicised, and experts who are not political individuals, who are just people of science, or in the case of the Bureau of Labour Statistics, statisticians, employment experts, they're being gotten rid of because people like Donald Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. don't like what these experts are telling them, even if what they are being told is based in fact rather than conspiracy theories. So this is about many things at once, which makes it a particularly fascinating story.
The Governor of the Reserve Bank is another.
It is.
That category.
And we've got another woman who has been dismissed from the Reserve Bank board. So while Donald Trump is essentially wanting to take control of the Reserve Bank board to force them to lower interest rates to his will, to help him, rather than to make an independent judgment on where interest rates should be set for the betterment of the American economy. He's now, they've made allegations against the first ever African-American woman appointed to the Reserve Bank board, and forced her out, or trying to force her out. She's lawyered up as well. Funnily enough, same lawyers as the CDC director, Abby Lowell and Mark Zaid. So This is a fight that is being played out on a number of fronts. We can say that Donald Trump has successfully politicised a lot of the courts, including the Supreme Court of the United States, the ultimate arbiter of whether he's allowed to do these other things. But one by one, he's going through these other organisations that are meant to be impartial and expert, and replacing those impartial experts with true believers in Trumpism and the MAGA movement and the MAHA movement, the Make America Healthy Again movement, which is what Robert Kennedy is promoting. And some of it, perfectly sound. A lot of it, quite wacky and quite dangerous. So we are in uncharted waters here, where essentially we're seeing a purge of expertise from the American government. It was one thing to have somebody like Donald Trump, who was traditionally unqualified to be president, certainly in his first term. He didn't come from a political or military background, which all other presidents had. He was a reality TV businessman. And we saw in his first term how that changed the way the presidency was run. A very instinctive style of diplomacy, a very erratic style of government. Now we're seeing all of Trump's loyalists through all these different agencies being their own little mini Trumps, doing the same kinds of disruptive things. Which is not to say that there aren't some things that need disrupting and can be questioned, but when it comes to basic science, established science, it is deeply concerning to a lot of medical experts to have an anti-vaxxer as the Health and Human Services Secretary, and that's essentially why the head of the CDC has now gone.